Hey guys, in this video we're going to compare cellular respiration with the two types of fermentation, alcoholic and lactic acid fermentation. And we'll start with, well, where it happens, right? So the location. And location wise, well, cellular respiration happens both in the cytoplasm for glycolysis and the rest in the mitochondria. We know that for alcoholic and lactic acid fermentation, it only happens in the cytoplasm. Well, what about then the final electron acceptor? For cellular respiration, it was oxygen. But in fermentation, we don't have oxygen. So, instead, in the case of alcoholic fermentation, acetaldehyde takes over and does its job. And in the case of lactic acid, it's good old pyruvic acid. What about dehydrogenation? Do we see it? And the answer is yes, yes, yes. All in glycolysis. Because all of the three go through glycolysis. Do we have decarboxylation? Or in other words, do we produce CO2? And the answer is in cellular respiration, yes. In alcoholic fermentation, yes, because as we go from, you'll remember, pyruvic acids to acetaldehydes, we do lose carbon. But in the case of lactic acid, we don't have that, so the answer is no. And so that's the difference between alcoholic and lactic acid fermentation. In alcoholic fermentation, we do have decarboxylation. In lactic acid fermentation, we don't. Do we have a electron transport chain? Yes, no, no. So in fermentation, we don't see the electron transport chain. What about oxidative phosphorylation? Yes, no, no. So the same responses as to whether we have the electron transport chain or not. Which also means then that the only way in fermentation for us to create ATP is what? Yes, through ATP only through substrate level phosphorylation. Which brings us to how much ATP is produced, or number of ATP produced. And in the case of cellular respiration, it's high because, well, most of ATP produced comes from oxidative phosphorylation and not substrate level phosphorylation. But since only fermentation can only get ATP through substrate level phosphorylation, the answer is low and low, relative, that is, to cellular respiration. And finally, do we have glycolysis happen? And we already know the answer to this. The answer is yes, all three go through glycolysis. And so that was basically a comparison of cellular respiration fermentation in a nutshell. Oh yeah, just remember, right, cellular respiration, around 32 ATP is produced. Meanwhile, in both alcoholic and lactic acid fermentation, they produce 2 ATP and 2 ATP. And so that difference is quite a lot. Anyways, again, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in my next few videos.